Hello! Today I'm going to be making some cinnamon rolls. Now folks, this is a great recipe for any time of the year. And what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to give you a base dough recipe. This dough recipe can be used for a lot of stuff. You can use it to make white bread or dinner rolls or braided breads, all kinds of neat things that you can make with this recipe. Today we're going to be making cinnamon rolls with it. Now, cinnamon rolls, I think they need to have character. And just plain cinnamon rolls with just cinnamon and sugar in them, and that's it. It's kind of ordinary, kind of bland. So let's give this a little bit of a push. Let's kick it up a bit. Let's turn it into something that's not so ordinary, but a little more fancy. Let's see, I could add pecans and raisins, right? Well, I think a lot of people have done that. And I was thinking I wanted flavors that suit the holiday season. So I picked out some items that are really popular around Christmas time and Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and all of that during that season. These are some items that are commonly sold in the United States and are very popular. So we're going to place some nuts in there. We're going to place some fruit in there also. I'll show you that in a minute. And we're going to have the perfect items for Christmas. Well, I shouldn't say Christmas. How about for the holiday season? There we go. That way I'm not excluding any groups, right? I hope. Anyway, folks, this is a really great recipe. When you try it, you're going to fall in love with it. And when you realize how versatile it is, you're going to be making all kinds of different kinds of delicious tasting cinnamon rolls. Let's get in the kitchen. I'm going to show you how to do all of it. Come on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the ingredients that I have for today's cinnamon rolls are flour, milk, this has some water added, salt, sugar, yeast, and melted butter. Over here on what I'm going to be putting inside, we have some cranberries. Those are dried cranberries. I have some almonds right here with some sugar, butter softened at room temperature so it'll spread easily, and some cinnamon. This is going to make a delicious cinnamon roll. I can't wait to show you how to do it. These wonderful nuts here, we're going to take them and break them up. I need to put these in a plastic bag. This is a pretty simple process. It's not hard to do. In fact, I really should leave this open to allow air to move. To break up your nuts, all you have to do is bang them with a skillet. There we go. Making sure there's no other whole ones. There we go. Broken almonds ready for those cinnamon rolls. There we go. As you can see, that wasn't that difficult, was it? We are going to get started making the dough, but something I want to mention before we get into all of this. Yeast and salt. Okay, these are two things that don't go together too well. Salt will kill yeast. It will also slow down the growth of yeast. And you might be thinking, well, gosh, shouldn't I leave it out of my bread? I want it to rise. Well, yeah, but the salt gives it flavor, and it controls the speed at which the bread rises. So there is a relationship here, and the amount you use of each does matter. All right, I want to slow down that rise a little bit, but also I want to give a nice flavor, and that salt will add that. I don't want to mix the salt in with the first ingredients though, because then the salt content is too high relative to the amount of other ingredients. So what I'll do here is I'm going to take the salt and I'm going to put it, let me get a shake here, put it right down over my flour. Looky there. And I want to stir that in just gently. It doesn't take much, just so there's no large amounts in one spot. Now all of the other ingredients I want to put down here in this bowl We're going to mix them together. Let's take a close look at that. I'll start with my milk and water combination. This has been brought up in temperature a little bit. I put it in the microwave until it was just barely warm to the touch. About the same that you would do for a baby's milk bottle, okay? So the next thing I'm going to put in here is going to be that sugar. Then the yeast. You see what we have here is we're waking up the yeast. Now, here's a little lesson for you. A long time ago, before yeast was really, perfected, they used to have a little bit harder time knowing if the yeast was going to be alive or not. And so bakers would do what they called proofing the yeast. And that is where they would simply add in amount of yeast to the sugar and the milk, and they would give it some time. And if it turns foamy, you know that yeast is good. But if it didn't turn foamy, then you would throw that out, knowing not to waste all of your other ingredients making bread because the yeast was bad, okay? So that's how they would tell if the yeast is good or not, and that's hence the term proofing the yeast. You've proved that it works or not, okay? Mixed in good and put in the butter. Now let's go ahead and start putting in some of the flour. Something I want to mention on this flour, when I measured it earlier, I measured it into a sifter and I sifted that flour out so that I would be certain there would be no lumps in the flour, and it also lightens it and gives a better quality texture to anything you bake. Sifting is a good thing. Doesn't hurt to spend a little extra time to do that. I want to start with part of the flour, and I'm going to put this on low speed. So as you can see, our dough is getting kneaded down beautifully. Just keep giving it some time, and we're going to do some time lapses here until this is fully kneaded out. But on the whole, I'm going to be giving it probably about 5 to 10 minutes. And my dough should be a little bit on the sticky side. You don't want it perfectly dry and firm, okay? Okay, it has come together as a ball. I'm going to increase the speed a little bit. And let it do what it does. Now folks, when you're rising dough, don't ever use metal. Always rise in plastic, ceramic, or glass. And that is because metals will react with yeast. So the part of the dough that's in contact with the metal will not rise properly, okay? Do it this way and get a good rise. Now watch what I do here. I put a little bit of olive oil in here. It can be any oil, it doesn't have to be olive oil. But I'm just going to make sure the whole bowl is coated, okay? Because this is going to rise up high. It's going to consume the whole bowl space. All right? There we go. So that's ready. Something I want to mention, when you're rising, you don't want the top to be exposed. Now you can cover it with plastic wrap, or you can use something like another bowl. Just simply invert it. Boom, you've got a perfect setup for rising. You just need a warm place to place that, and with that, you'll get good rising, okay? So there's my rising kit, and I'm ready to go. Okay, as you see, I got a spatula for myself, and that's because, as I mentioned before, this stuff, it's a little bit sticky, as you can see, and it just makes handling it a little easier. Be patient with it, that's all you got to do. See there? It's coming. Get down there. There you go. Just sticky enough to be a little bit difficult to manage, but not impossible. Okay, at this point, cover it, put it in a warm place, and let it rise. There we go. Well, folks, Our cinnamon buns dough is in there rising right now. I put mine on top of a burner that has a pilot light. Not everybody is that lucky because most new ovens are an electronic start. What you want to remember is just make sure it's covered, put it in a warm location, as warm as you can find. Hey, on top of the refrigerator often works for many people. Give it plenty of time, there's no rush on this, and when it's doubled in bulk, that's when we move to the next step. We're going to punch it down, divide it out, roll it out, and get busy making our goodies. Look at that gorgeous dough. It has like tripled in bulk. Now we're ready to make these cinnamon buns. First thing I have to do is to punch that down, and then I'm going to split it into 2 halves. That will be enough to fill 2 pans just like this with cinnamon buns, okay? So there's going to be plenty of for that. Now remember, this recipe, I'm actually producing a double batch of dough, so I can do another recipe adjacent to this, which is about white bread. So if you haven't seen the white bread video, that's a good one to check out. It's a little more detailed than what you saw here. This is the dough we're going to be using. I'm going to punch it down, roll it out, and we're going to get busy making those cinnamon buns. Okay folks, I need to get my pan ready for my cinnamon buns. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some butter. I'm just going to rub it around in the bottom. Now let me tell you something, you can do this, whoops, get that stable. You can do this if you have shortening or lard. You can use tallow. You can use any kind of fat on the inside of that pan that you want. I'm just rubbing it around the sides now. There we go. Thing of it is the idea here is you want whatever you bake up to release easy. And this is an old-fashioned technique, but I'm going to say now it works. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that all the butter I got in there covers everything and that there aren't any spots that are missing any. So that's what all of this is about. Making sure you get good coverage. All right, now I put a little flour in this and we'll dust it out and it's done. Nothing like getting to punch down the dough. There you go. Hey, it's just tradition, okay? Go ahead and enjoy doing that, and then what we want to do is take our dough. I'm going to place it here on this board, flour it up here, and I'm going to divide it out. And that's what these things are for. This is actually a pastry knife is what that is, and it is kind of dull on the end, but it's designed to work with dough. Right onto that floured surface. And remember, this is a sticky dough, so you're going to fight with it a little bit, but it's not a bad thing. So I'm going to sprinkle some more flour over the top of this, and this is just to help make it a little more manageable, okay? All I need to do, just kind of work it lightly. Now I'm trying to form kind of a sort of an oblong shape so that I can judge about what half would be, and it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so half and half. There we go. We've divided that dough out and we've got a portion for our cinnamon rolls. And that's what's sitting right here. Now what we're going to do, we're going to have a little fun here. And that's the most important thing. When you're baking, when you're in the kitchen, when you're doing stuff like this, for heaven's sakes, just have a little fun with it. Don't get too serious about it. And take the time to enjoy what you're doing, okay? Now, what am I trying to do? I'm just trying to roll this out in such a way that I have a flat sheet that has some sort of a workable shape. I guess is the best way to say it. Now, I've got this wonky shape. What am I going to do with this strange shape? Will it work? You know what? I bet it will. Alright, so what I have here is a dough that's anything but perfect, but it's going to work for what we're going to do. Alright folks, our butter, yeehaw, right? Who doesn't like butter? And butter belongs on everything. Well, not everything, just on what we need. Oh, anyway, get your butter spread out, and once you got it on there, we move on to that next step. That butter was a little bit firm. I'll admit it could have been slightly warmer, but it did spread nonetheless, as you saw. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. And don't try to force it. Just give it time to do its own thing. All right, my cinnamon, let's put it right down with the sugar. Give this a little mix. Now there's different ways you can do this. You can use a spoon, you can use, just gently sprinkle the bowl over the top of it, like so. You can use your hand, just reach in there, grab the sugar, and sprinkle it over the top. It works the same either way. All we're doing is just looking for an even distribution. Now that I have my cinnamon, my butter, sugar, they're all on there, I think it's time to go a little nuts. Oops. I'm sorry, that was a bad one, wasn't it? Okay. There we go. Let's get our cranberries on there. Any of these that are clumped up, you might want to just break apart because you don't want a huge clump in the middle of it, but a few grouped together won't hurt anything. All right, there we have it. Now it's a matter of just get this dude rolled up, right? So I'm going to start by tucking him over and gently rolling. There we go. And don't worry about anything that comes out the end. If something does, just throw it back in the middle and keep moving forward. The ends on this, little less than perfect. I want to remove them before lining my pan. And this is only because I'm just kind of picky about wanting things a certain way, and having it rough on the edge like that doesn't really cut it for me. Now let me get my pan. There's a lot of different ways we can cut this, all right? Some folks might just use the rule of halving it, where they half it and half it again and half that and so forth and so on, and that'll give you some very straight pieces. It sure will. So right down the middle, and on the middle on that one, and right here, I could half each of these. And then take these and line out my pan with. They're going to come apart a little bit. Just be patient with them. And don't worry about whatever falls out. All right. If you want on a separate pan, make yourself something special with this. But these right here, with as messy as it looks, are going to turn into a gorgeous pan of cinnamon buns. I am ready for this. Okay, I've got them cut up. They're in the pan. Look at that, that's beautiful. And I've gone ahead and put some plastic wrap over the top. Now I'm going to place this on this sheet, and I'm going to place this on my burner. Not with the burner on, but just over the pilot, and that way it kind of warms it up and gives it a little fuel to rise quicker. These have had plenty of time to rise, and look at them now. They're filled out, squeezed up against each other in that pan, pushed up against the pan. They're starting to look like real cinnamon buns. Well guys, I'm going to put these in the oven as soon as it's finished heating. That's about 8 minutes from now, and that's going to be 375 degrees, and it should take somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25 minutes. You're going to cook them until they're golden brown. It's time for us to get this into the oven and do some baking. Oh, I like days like this. There we go. Now it's just a matter of time. Now folks, for our cinnamon buns that we made today, our ingredients quantities are as follows. On the milk, I used 1.5 cups of milk, and I added 1/2 cup of water to that. On the flour, that was 5 cups of flour. I then sifted it. Sugar was 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 4.5 teaspoons of yeast, or 2 packages, which is the same amount, by the way. And on the butter here, that's 3 tablespoons of butter that's melted. Now back here on those and other ingredients, the nuts, I used a 1/2 cup of almonds, a 1/2 cup of those cranberries, and on the sugar, that's 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, 4 tablespoons of butter that were softened to room temperature, and 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. Folks, it's a delicious combination and definitely worth your time. Now let's take a good look at those cinnamon buns. They're out of the oven and I can't wait. Folks, in a little bit, my cinnamon buns are going to be out of the oven and I'm going to use some of this. This is some almond extract. I'm going to use a teaspoon of it and I'm going to combine that with 2 cups of powdered sugar. That's what they call confectioner sugar. And then I have here 1/4 cup of milk, and that will turn this sugar into a beautiful sauce that we can then place over the top of our cinnamon buns. Now I say a sauce, and in reality it is in fact a type of sauce. It's a sweet, sugary topping for the cinnamon buns. All right, it has been 25 minutes now, so let's pull these out. Oh yeah. That's beautiful. Exactly what we're looking for. Now let's take a little closer look at that, okay? There we go. That's what they're supposed to look like when they come out of the oven. Now folks, it's time for our topping. If you remember, we have this confectioner sugar here, 2 cups of it. And I have a little bit of almond extract and 1/4 cup of milk. I'll tell you what, come over here, look down in this, and you're going to see how this works out. It's kind of interesting to watch, really. There we go, that's a little bit better. Now what I want to do is I want to take my milk, I'm going to pour it in here. I'm just going to stir it into that sugar. Now at first you might be thinking there's just no way that 1/4 cup of milk can dissolve that much sugar. However, lo and behold, if you will notice, it's really not that tough. Okay, now if you'll notice, I'm also doing this with a whisk. And that was to show you that you don't really have to have machinery for this. So you'll know you don't have to use milk either. If you want to use cream, like a heavy cream or something, you can do that with this. There's other things you can add to it. We won't get into that today though. Now my almond extract, just a little bit there, a little less than a teaspoon. It doesn't take much. That stuff is really strong. Oh, the smell of that is absolutely fantastic. Oh boy, that's delicious smelling. Now the next thing I want to do to make this easier to put on top of my cinnamon buns, I'm going to pour it into a small pitcher just so I can pour it easily. Alrighty, let's see about getting this down here in this. Very simple thing to make, very easy and quite delicious. Now this makes about 3/4 cup total once it's all mixed. It's amazing what confectioner's sugar dissolves down to. Now let's take that glaze and very gently, I just want to drizzle it over the top. And I've got it on this pan in case I accidentally run over the edge with it. Don't want to do that. But as you notice, this allows me a very controlled pour by doing it this way. If I want to go around that edge again, I can. Ooh, there we go. And there it is. That's what I call cinnamon buns right there. Absolutely delicious. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely fantastic. Now, I just have to enjoy one. Now we get a little bit better look at that. Look at this. This is delicious right here. Oh man. Now, for the real test, which is just the taste test. Oh, there we go. That's good. The glaze drip down through there. Got this almondy goodness all the way through it with the crunch, the sweetness and tartness of that cranberry, the cinnamon, all of it. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to try this one. It's really good. That is a great way to take a simple recipe, which is a white bread recipe, and turn it into something spectacular. It's all about having good base recipes and expanding on them. That's it, folks. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you would, please look at the channel. Take a look in my description box down below. That description box, there's some links to there. There's one for my website. That's S.A.Trotter.com. And that'll show you some of the other stuff I do. Some of the pictures that you can purchase from me are now starting to go on there, as well as some of the shirts that I've been putting out. Soon there will be a lot of items for Texas Cooking Today put on there. There's going to be the recipes, shirts, aprons, the whole ball of wax. I'll have that up as quick as I can. And folks, this is now under the guise of, well, S.A.Trotter Arts. So Texas Cooking Today is a project of S.A.Trotter Arts. It's my baby, basically. I just put it under my own company. If you would, please check out my website. I'd appreciate that. If you would, take a look at my channel. A lot of good stuff there. And if you would, please enjoy these wonderful cinnamon buns. They're definitely worth your time. Thank you. Come with me. Ooh, yeah.